Hello, everyone, and welcome
What
to
up?
Recipe for Reality. What
What
is up?
up?
I know I scheduled this for 10:35, but we started 30 seconds early because guess what? We
What
wanted to catch
up?
you by surprise. It's been a
What
little
up?
while. It's been about 3 weeks, but Zach and I are busy. This is busy time for both of us, for many different reasons. It's either the film fest for me, it's either the rehearsals for him, it's school for him, or it's literally flying to Minnesota for me. We have not had the time, but
What's
we have been
exciting?
keeping up our rankings on the Facebook page, so we have been at least engaged enough to share every week where we think everyone's at. But now we get to actually talk about it. Zach, Big Brother wrapped in the time we were away. How do you feel about that?
Good season. One
Yeah,
of the I'd say definitely in my top 10 of seasons, period. Um, Maybe like scratching its way into the top 5. I would say it doesn't make top 3. I don't know. We should at some point do like a new Big Brother like top 10, top 5
right.
ranking. Just as like our filler content, in all our free time that we've got. Um uh but
Where
I
we start
do
adding 2 episodes a week and shocking the world. you know?
Could you imagine?
Oh my god.
I do think that for me, probably one of the best seasons we've had in a really, really long time.
Yeah,
A great cast, great winner. I think probably the most deserving winner of the season, bar none.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Played a flawless game. I mean, Chelsea, the first woman to play a flawless game. Period. Overall, a 7-0 sweep. That is what? That's the second 7-0 we've seen in the new era, which is kind of crazy that we are seeing such like high quality playing from people on like a consistent basis.
Mhm.
And would have been, Dylan, our third 7-0 and our second female and black female 7-0 if, based on the record of what Turner said, who just got married this past week, shout out Turner, said like if they had informed him how their votes were going, he also would have voted for Taylor. We
Right.
would have seen our second 7-0
Yeah.
black female sweep winner of Big Brother in the new era. I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Huge blunder from Mackenzie taking Chelsea
Yeah. Well,
over
yeah.
Cam.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because obviously last time we left off, you were in the camp. We were both in the kind of the camp of like it's Chelsea's to lose, but you were much more in the camp of like it still could be Mackenzie. And I think a lot of other people listening also felt the same way. Matt, co-host of the channel, also felt the same way. I believe like they saw the merits in Mackenzie's game. I never really saw that because I always felt like everything she was doing was in service of Chelsea. The only thing I will say Mackenzie did super right this season, besides winning comps when she needed to early on the season, was getting out T-Core when she did because it really made her
Yeah,
Chelsea's number one, even over Cam, because that was also the week that Cam and Chelsea were fighting, and that's
yeah,
where she kind of struck. She gets out T-Core, so now Chelsea says, you know what, you're my number one, ride or die, and also playing the religion card into it too to like try to make the bond something greater than strategy. But I think with that, I think it's her age. She shows a lot of
yeah,
naivete, I should say, just in terms of like not necessarily realizing when it is strategic versus when it is,
yeah,
social and meaningful and relationship building, like getting to know when to separate the two, and she couldn't. And I've heard a lot of people saying this is Cody 2.0, and I want your take on this because there's a few arguments that this is a better move than Cody's, that Cody's was worse, but there's also a world where this could be a worse move. I think the props to Mackenzie is that Cam is a better competitor than Victoria is. So you're not cutting
yes,
someone completely useless. To a
correct.
lot of people, Cam seemed useless, but I thought Cam played a good game. There's also the downside, though, of Cody still gets votes in the end. He gets Jacasta's
Right.
vote. I believe he might get, I think it's Donnie's vote, maybe. He gets 2 votes, though. I forget who the second one is. Maybe it's Christine. But he gets 2 votes over Derek. So it's not a flawless
It's
win. Whereas here,
Jocasta.
it is. I know Jacasta's one of them, but there's a second one. I
Oh,
can't
it's
remember who
Donnie.
it is. Donnie. Okay, yeah, there you go. But anyway, Mackenzie doesn't get any votes against
Yeah.
Chelsea. So could people say that this is a worse move than Cody's? And I think my deal breaker is that Cody didn't know that Derek was gonna cut him, and I don't even think Derek was gonna cut him. The thing is, Chelsea had been planting seeds to take out Mackenzie, not on her own doing, but planting
Right.
seeds so if Rubina got into power, if Chemo got into power, if Angela got into power,
Yeah.
they take the shot at Mackenzie before her. She was
Yeah.
actively throwing Mackenzie under the bus. And I think that's the separation is Derek and Cody, we're going to have a lifelong bond no matter what. Here, I feel like Chelsea was always in the game side of it. And like if she got something personal out of it, it would also be
Yeah.
great. But in actuality, I think Cody and Derek, it was much more understandable because of their bond. Whereas here, it's like the bond developed very late
Yeah.
in the season. They didn't run together from the very top the way Cody and Derek did. I think this is a worse move, but I want to hear your opinion as someone who was kind of a Mackenzie truther for a while in the season. Do you think this is a dumber move than Cody's? And if so,
Um,
why?
I think it's about on par for me, to be honest. I think for Mackenzie, the biggest blunder, and I think truly the only reason that I don't think it's worse is because Mackenzie kind of knew going in she was going to have a tough battle, and she outright stated like, "Hey, I want to verse someone who I think played one of the best games, and I want to bring someone to the end who it would be satisfying to beat." I will say, I don't think she knew just how good of a game. I think she knew that Chelsea was playing well. That's why she kept reiterating. I think really the thing that does Mackenzie in is she has no fight against Chelsea, which I do think honestly is one of I think that's why I can't call it a worse move than Cody, mainly because in 16 Cody had an easy beat and then actively, like, as he tried to fight against Derek, realized like, I'm not gonna win. Whereas like I think Mackenzie knew, and I think she thought she was more prepared than she was, and then she heard Chelsea speak and was like, oh, I'm just not gonna win. So like, I don't know if I would call it a worse move. I would say they're probably on par because Cody had a slam dunk that he knew was a slam dunk, and he actively went against it because of his bond with Derek. And I think my thing is like, I think that regardless, like Derek would have been like, I respect you, I love you, like, I think he would have just had an easy, and Derek was never going to vote for Victoria over Cody. Whereas I think Mackenzie choosing Chelsea, I think I understand the thought process of like, I wanna beat the person who I think like you both played good games, so like who knows what could happen. I think her big blunder was not realizing how good of a speaker Chelsea was going to be and how much she had mapped out her own game. Mm-hmm. And also, not for nothing, I put them on the same level because Mackenzie and Cody were the same exact age when they made the same exact mistake, and they were both recruits. I know that this is something that like Andy Herron has said on Twitter. Like, he is not about Mackenzie or people like Mackenzie coming back and playing a second time. I'm all for it, mainly because I want to watch Mackenzie on a returnee season, who is clearly, I mean, sort of like how Cody comes back on All-Stars and really like amps it up. Like, Mackenzie is clearly a competitor. She's gonna win. She's gonna have comp threat. Now that she knows what the game is like, because I think that that's one of the big things about Big Brother is like, if you're not a fan and you don't understand the way the game works from like a strategic level, then you are actively learning. And at a certain point, like, if Mackenzie had taken out Cam, I think she wins. I think she's still
taking out Chelsea, you mean?
Sorry, yes. If she takes out Chelsea, I think she absolutely wins. I don't think she thought that, because I think from a game standpoint, like, or not from a game standpoint, but like if you're not a strategic Big Brother player, you don't think that way as a fan. You're thinking like it's a popularity contest, boy versus girl. He's gonna have all the male vote. Like if he's gonna have T-Core's vote, probably he's gonna have, he might have Leah's vote. He might have this person's vote. So I can see a world where she thinks Chelsea, even though it may not be a slam dunk, might be an easier choice because she thinks that Chelsea is not going to get Angela's vote. She thinks she's not going to get Leah's vote. There probably seems some hope for her. But I mean, Chelsea just like it was like.
Which was probably true at a point. I do think I think Angela was voting Mackenzie, but again, Chelsea was just so well prepared. Chelsea literally says, Angela, she wanted you out. She couldn't stand you. I had to convince her to use the veto on you when she couldn't stand you. That just, I mean, you know how to play to Angela's ego. Whether that's true or not, I really don't know. I think Mackenzie did actually genuinely want to save her without Chelsea's convincing in that move, but I think it's an example of like Chelsea finding the right things to poke about each juror to make them want to vote for her, even if some of it is BS. And I think this team, a lot of the time we have to, remember that in the end, the only people who know the truth is the audience and you. You can BS as much as you want. And not to say that Chelsea BS. I think Jag last season did a lot of BSing, but like Chelsea didn't really BS a lot of her answers, but she said them in a way that made it seem a lot more flattering. Because I think what Mackenzie was thinking also, and this is to your point, where I don't think Chelsea has a flashy game. Like if you were to
No.
watch it back, and I think that's the problem with the live element of Big Brother is that you can't edit it. Like in Survivor, we can edit a winner to where they don't feel invisible. Like someone like Saul, who was invisible for 3 episodes, someone like Genevieve, who's invisible for 2 or 3 episodes, probably won't win the game because we just didn't see so much of them early on. And if they had, we would have. Whereas in Big Brother, you have someone like Casey or someone like Chelsea who plays a little more low key, especially in the first half of the game. It's impossible for the edit to know that she's going to win. And then once they caught wind that she was on a path to victory, they then started showing her a lot more in the back half. But I think that's the problem with the edit in Big Brother, to where I think Mackenzie thought, well, I just have the best story, because the last 2 winners, if you remember, Taylor and Jag, a lot of it was their story. It wasn't because they were dominant players. Jag was eliminated. Taylor was almost eliminated week 1. So I think it's really about Mackenzie was thinking, I scrapped, I fought, I won challenges, and that was enough. But I think you have to take each season on its own. And I think that's something we've seen now with 3 different types of winners, even Xavier being a completely different type of winner too. Like you got to take the season on its own terms and not just say, oh, I fought back from a lot of adversity. Well, that could be really good for someone like Jag, who's going up against Matt, who's not well-spoken, or that could be good for someone like Taylor, who has spun that into her strategy. But if you're Mackenzie, Chelsea's going to kind of spin her own narrative on why her less flashy gameplay is the right gameplay for that season. And she did. She said it was a diamond. You could look at it at different angles and find something special about it. It's not all there in your face, but it's beauty when you observe it all around. And I thought that was great. Obviously, I don't really understand the analogy quite as much, because I do think her game is a little less, it is a lot more straightforward, I think, than I think she led it to believe. She's not this kind of like shifty player, in my opinion. She just kind of really rallied her troops when she could and dominated. But hey, it worked because she gave herself an arc and a story that matched her strategy, rather than just saying, I did a lot of things, which is what Mackenzie did. So I agree. I think Chelsea's a fantastic winner for this season, regardless of whether you like her or not. Like I didn't love her in the DRs, but it's not about that. She played a great game. And I think for this season, considering how much we got from Tucker and Angela and other characters, I'm fine with someone who's not the biggest character or most likable character winning, because they were the best strategists. Because now we can watch the season back and enjoy all those things. It's kind of like Big Brother 10. Dan is never the best character that season. He has moments, but it is Jerry and Rennie and Keisha and Libra and Michelle.
Memphis. Like Memphis, I think the other thing too is when we are in a point now too where like, and we haven't really had it in a while. I mean, like Jag sort of kind of, Taylor sort of kind of, but not really. Xavier was like a middle ground, but he was way less about his fan love of it and more about like who he was as a person. We haven't had like a fan of the game, like a super fan in the final 2 in a long time. And I mean, like you and I will know better than anyone, and then I'm sure other people who are watching will know as well. Like when you're a fan,
I think Josh was the last one, if I have to remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean, like you've thought about being there, so like. She at some point, I imagine, and like we saw it on the live feeds, like she would talk about Chelsea was talking about what she wanted to do when she was there. Like that's probably something she's been planning for a decade or longer. And like now
that diamond thing she pulled out as soon as she saw Taylor's I am the sword speech. Like she immediately knew, oh well, I'll be the diamond. I really think this is something, like you said, she's been brewing for a while.
So it's always, Mackenzie was always going to have a much easier time up against Cam, who like maybe is not as prepared. But I mean, like I feel pretty confident in saying like anyone in jury up against Chelsea was going to have a hard time. She was never going to lose to. She was never going to lose to Chemo. She was never going to lose to Rubina. She was never going to lose to even like, I mean, like I loved Leah. I thought she was a great player on this season, but like she wasn't losing to Leah.
No. The only people she probably would have lost to is if Quinn had gotten his strategic footing. I think Quinn could have outspoken him. Even T-Core, I think
I was going to say T-Core too.
But I think T-Core has the solidified votes from certain people who love her, but I could see a world where Chelsea could still out.
And I think that's the thing, right? Is that when we go in, we don't know how they're, or when they go, we're going into finale and we don't know anything. We don't know how they're like, people are going to react. We don't know how they're going to sway. We have never, I mean, it was all over Twitter, right? Like we have never seen a live changing of someone's vote. And there is perfect shot, like perfect video of Angela's face being like I'm going to vote for you now, because in that jury roundtable, she is Team Mackenzie. She's Team Mackenzie. So is Leah. They're both like, Mackenzie played a good game. You guys just don't understand it. And then that at the end of the day, like there was nothing she could have done to change that because Chelsea was always going to be able to do that. I think, again, depending on how she performs, like definitely T-Core, Quinn maybe. I also think that there is a world where, like, if Angela knocks it out of the park, she could have convinced people. I think the only person who could have given Chelsea a run for their money in convincing people might have been Angela. And even then, I'm not 100% sure because I think Angela at the end of the day would have faced the fact that, like, Chelsea's game is so well laid out. And, like, Angela also, like, Angela from a viewer standpoint, people love her, but, like, they did not. They didn't love her.
I don't think Angela was going to win, but I do think you're right. I think of anyone who had a story worth rivaling Chelsea's, Angela would have. If she had made it to finale, she would have had a story to back it up. And the truth is, if Angela gets to the end, it's because she cuts Chelsea. Because the only way Angela's path to the end was to go to Chelsea. And that was the thing. It was like anyone who could have beat Chelsea would have had to take her out. So it's really Chelsea taking out the people who would have taken out her to where now she's left with people who would have taken her. Even Rubina at the end would have probably taken Chelsea over someone like Cam or someone like Mackenzie, especially Cam, because Rubina was all for the all girls thing. Like, I really do think Chelsea just situated herself so well at the end to where at the final 5 she had the game won, and that's really tough. Like, double eviction was her most adversity she faced, and as soon as she won that tiebreaker comp, it was no longer there. Like, the most adversity she faced was Angela in that tiebreaker of the double eviction, and then from then on it was nothing but ease. So yeah, I think she's a top tier winner, top 5 winner. As for the season, I'm gonna say it. I think it's a top 5 season for me. I love it. I really love it.
With that.
It is the most exciting a first watch of a season has been since Big Brother 10 for me, because even Big Brother 14, people forget it started off rough. Like the Willie
14
expulsion.
14's beginning is the worst.
Yeah, like Ian being the target. Like 19. Yeah. I think the beginning of 14 was icky. Jody going home and getting like no shot to play. The coaches being there but not actually playing. But then once they enter the game, it becomes a whole nother season. And the ending is so good, which is why I've always said it's one of my favorites. But I think just top to bottom, if you look at week by week, there was only one week this season that I felt was maybe a little slow. And it's the final 4 week with Rubina. Like, I really think every other week, and it's because Rubina didn't campaign, but every single week, even final 5 with Chemo, there was some intrigue there. You know, every single week had intrigue of some sort. And I think that's what's so amazing. There was no down week. And even the weeks that we thought were down ended crazy because of AI Arena with like Joseph going home, like stuff like that.
Grodner has gone, I saw this literally today. They've gone on record saying over at the studio that they're probably always going to bring back the arena.
That's
which I think we've said it on camera. That's probably one of the best things that they could do because it finally switches up the gameplay in a way that is you can plan, but you need like plan A, B, C, D, and E. Yeah. You cannot just bank on them potentially like on 2 people being on the block, because once the veto is over, it doesn't matter that the veto is over. There's still one more shot.
And with live feeds, we know who the final nominees are usually on Monday or Sunday. You know, we know who the not final nominations are before we see the actual nomination episode on Sundays, to where it became where at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we knew who was going home for 4 days. Now it's like, well, we know who's the primary target, but if they win AI Arena, and we did see that. And I think that's the beauty of it. Like, we had the weeks like Brooklyn's eviction where it was like Brooklyn was a target. She lost AI Arena. She went home. But most weeks it was always, well, if they win, like when Mackenzie won and it became Cedric and Rubina, it was like, well, shit. You know, and I think that's what the AI Arena, or the Big Brother Arena, I guess, which is what it'll be called, brings to that season, which is so
I venture to say that I even think they ended it a little too early. I think they could have gone with like maybe like 1 or 2 into jury, because I think also having that kind of gameplay in the jury house is even more so like of an important strategy, because I mean, like, you've got 3 people on the block. You have to play it upright. Like, that's a part of your jury management. That's a part of, you know, how you navigate week to week. You get rid of it after like maybe the 2nd week of jury. I think that, because then again, when people's frustrations or people's like opinions when they're like, oh, like the season's becoming predictable, is usually in those first like 2 weeks of jury, because now they're playing completely different. And I think it would once again throw just like a tiny little bit of a wrench in there. Just like, and again, does it have to do that? I don't think it's necessary. I think I'm gonna agree with you. It was definitely top 10, but now even just like talking about it and thinking about it, I think it's a top 5. It's got to be a top 5. I mean, for me, like I think 20 is still like special for me because of what it was to me. But in terms of like a season as a whole, this is probably a better whole season because from start to finish,
Yeah,
you've
it has
got
a stronger jury and end game phase than 20 does, but 20, that pre-jury is still almost unmatched. But this season has such a good pre-jury. Like, it really is hard to find a season that is as good in the pre-jury and the post-jury as this is. You know?
Well, and like, you know, you like once Kenny is gone, that whole pre-jury is like a round of shots fired like right in the gut.
Right.
Like,
Well, and
Brooke
even that week
leaving.
where Kenny goes home is the week where Tucker volunteers and puts himself on the block. Like that,
Right.
even though the elimination result is very lackluster and Kenny's like a whatever character, let's get
There
rid
was
of him.
not always a guarantee that it was going to be Kenny.
Yeah.
They might have kept Kenny in the house for another week.
Yeah, if Kenny wins, or if I forget who the third nominee was that week. Who actually won AI Arena that week? Was it because it was Tucker? He saved himself, but
It was
who else? It
Tucker.
was because it was Quinn, because it was America's nominee.
Oh yeah.
But like, let's say Quinn wins or Kenny wins. If Kenny wins, it's Quinn and Tucker, and Tucker goes home that week. Like, it would have been insane. It just changes the whole season. Like, I love the AI Arena because it literally left us guessing every week, and it makes it actually exciting to tune into eviction week and eviction night. And like, if it means that we don't get an HOH comp till Sundays, I'll take it, because honestly, I think this is a good fix. Like, even if we don't get the HOH comp anymore on Thursdays, we're getting a comp that results in something unpredictable and fun and engaging.
Yeah.
So
It's important.
Yeah, absolutely. So any last thoughts on BB 26, Zach?
No, it was great. I mean, I think this is really what like Big Brother as a franchise and a fan base needed. They needed something interesting and really unpredictable, because there was a lot that was good about 25, but the things that were bad about 25 were bad. I mean, the zombies, the comps, like the kind of letdown of the pressure cooker, the way that like competitions were handled, and like kind of like the lackluster variety. This is the perfect marriage of all of those things that we kind of had issues with. It's probably the first time in a while that I have felt like producers are actively listening to like what people want to see. Yeah. And that's especially important when you know that you're going to be dealing with like a battle against Survivor to keep people interested. And like, if you want people to continue watching after Survivor ends, you've got to create an interesting season. And they did. And I'm almost kind of sad that there's no reindeer games, because again, we've been told there's no reindeer games, which is so sad. So good. Such a great little gimmick. I'm hoping that they're kind of like trying to figure out different ways to do things to like keep it fresh. Like, you know, there's all this talk on Twitter of like, you know, Cupid challenge, BB Cupid challenges, where it's like the couple's a big brother and
their Valentine's Day slot.
Yeah. Would be very cool. Very exciting. They've done something like that before. I mean, that's what 9 was. 9 was like a Valentine's Day style season.
Because it was during a strike, so they needed to do it in the wintertime. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it would be very cool. I'm thrilled with it. Gonna keep applying. I want to be on Big Brother.
Cast us, baby.
Cast us. Put us on there. You
put me on Survivor. I showed you right now. I can grow a really nice beard, and it looks like I'm not going to be shaving it tonight because we're in the bottom of the 8th and we're winning, so it's staying. But I'm looking right now. Yeah, we're up 6-4. So yeah, guys, I love Survivor and Big Brother so much, and I love this guy so much that I'm missing the World Series to record this. When let's be face it, because if we lose, we're out. So like, do I even want to watch it if we lose? And if we win, we get another shot tomorrow, so it's fine. But we're winning now because this is live, and we're still winning. Good.
Survivor. We're gonna transition. Full disclosure for everyone before Dylan even starts. It's been a long 3 weeks for me myself.
Yeah.
A lot of I've been, believe it or not, I've been to Massachusetts twice within the last 3 weeks on the weekends. Your boy's tired. Your boy is exhausted. So I will say my retention of these past couple of episodes of Survivor has not been so wonderful. Dylan is going to act as my, you're going to get like live. I know a little bit, obviously, like I've seen the episodes. I know the outcome. Like, just there's a lot going on in this brain. So what you're
Absolutely.
gonna hear is Dylan's commentary and my sort of like live reactions.
Yeah.
I'm doing great in fantasy right now. I
Yeah,
picked
well, let me pull it up
by
because,
accident.
yeah, we've obviously seen the fall of Keyshawn, Annika, and Rome. Two of them are my players, and hey, listen, to go out as early as he did to get 16 points, which is still
R.I.P. Rome.
only
When you hear.
one less than Genevieve, Saul, and two less than Rachel. Like, I'm feeling good with that. Like, to leave on pre-jury with 16, I'm fine with that. Obviously the amulets helped people like Caroline and Teeny and Andy big time because they found the amulets and then they just ended up kind of flushing it, which I liked. We'll talk about that in a sec. As for power rankings, if you follow on the Facebook page, Zach, you finally put one in the right spot,
Thank
putting
God.
Rome in the 13th spot, and he went home. Rome usually listens to this, so let's be kind
No.
as we eulogize Rome's game. Now, the last time we talked, Asia had gone home. Rome kind of pulled off that big move with the help of Teeny and Saul. Or no, not Saul. Saul was the one left out of it. Teeny, Genevieve, and Keyshawn. That's what it was. And you were left being like, what are you doing, Rome? But I think really like the social game Rome was the thing questioning, but he was in some power. He was the king of the castle. He had all the advantages. And then we see very quickly these new kind of power shifts, as Jeff promised, emerge. So I figured the easiest way to talk about this, instead of going episode by episode, Zach, is just talking about each tribe first and what kind of happened on their side and where they're at. And then we could talk about just the merge episode in general and the fall of Rome. But I kind of want to start with Blue because Blue has the least going on in terms of eliminations. But really, we see Blue being a place for idols and a place for a lot of like simmering tension, is what I like to call it. Yay,
Yeah.
Survivor time. Carly's been waiting for it. You got it, Carly. But Blue, what we basically see is Sue finding this idol, and of course the pot smashes and all this blood goes everywhere, and Sue has to clean it up. It is a great scene. It is a great moment. Tiana and Caroline kind of question it and we forget about it. It's definitely not going to come up later, right? It definitely doesn't come up later. But yeah, Sue has an idol, and then of course they go on this really cool twist where they get to play on two different teams, but they're still in separate tribes. But the winning tribe will get a reward together, where they basically just get to mingle with the other tribe. That's what the reward is, which I thought was really cool. The
Very
Survivor
cool.
Social Hour. So you get people from all three tribes socializing, and in that social hour, Tiana lets spill to the entire group that's there that Gabe is running the show and Gabe's got to go home. Meanwhile, Sue has a target on Kyle because Kyle put her name out there back at the TK boot. And then Gabe now is going after Tiana because Gabe is pissed at Tiana, wants to crush her Survivor dreams. But Caroline, being the mother hen, wants to kind of have harmony. And I think this is a good kind of upside to Caroline's winner projections because she is kind of being the one kind of building this community, which is Jeff's theme of the season. He keeps talking about community, and she says, "You know what? I think you just got to play it cool with Tiana. We can talk about it later, but I think you got to play cool." And Gabe actually forgives Tiana. They have a nice talk, and then they go into the merge 5 strong. And then once we get in the merge, we'll talk about what happens then because none of them are really targeted because Rome just kind of runs his mouth and gets the target put on himself. But right now, we're kind of at a little bit of a fractured family with Blue, where Tiana is going after Gabe. Kyle is kind of going after Sue a little bit and Caroline because he thinks they're a duo, whereas Sue, Caroline, and Gabe seem like the tight three, and it looks like Gabe is going after Tiana. So, and then Sue, of course, with her idol, we'll talk about a little bit later in the merge. But anything about this tribe dynamic that you found interesting? Did you like the Sue idol find with the blood? Like, what would you have done in that situation if red paint went everywhere? Would you just tell your tribe? Would you do what Sue did and try to cover it up, or what do you do in that situation, Zach?
I don't know.
Right?
I've really thought about it, and like there are a lot of ways to cover up a lie. It's really hard to cover up a lie in that scenario, and like I feel like early game maybe it's easier to just tell everyone, but I feel like at this point, especially like with everything so out in the open about like that this is how things have gone down. Gabe's kind of running the show. We've got this whole like Tiana in the middle. It's Caroline and Sue. Like it's. I feel like being truthful about it. I think what I would have done otherwise is I would have called it something completely. I would have just said like, I lost my vote or something like that. And I would
like you saw like an urn of paint and in it was a beware advantage and you lost your vote. Yeah, that's a good idea. Like, don't even say an idle thing and say it was a different challenge. Like maybe
say you
say
ripped
that.
it up. Say you
Yeah,
ripped it up. No one
Yeah,
can be
maybe
mad at you for
maybe
that.
be like at the last challenge, I found a scroll and it told me that I had to like dig into a thing of paint and it got everywhere and the whole thing was if you crack it and the paint splatters out, you lose your vote. And if you can keep it intact and bring
Yeah,
it to like the water well, like something like that. I think
yeah.
that's actually a very good idea. Like make it sound like it's a different thing than an idol. But yeah, like
Or
I just thought that scene was so funny
she
and
didn't.
yeah, and they immediately clocked it. But then I will just talk about the merge episode because I think it's important. The whole tribe is looking for this advantage, which ends up being in this buoy that Genevieve gets. But turns out, everyone notices the blood and basically thinks something's up. And Tiana and Caroline immediately clock it, and Caroline goes right to Sue. And instead of calling her out, she says, "I'm so proud of you. I'm great. I'll keep your secret. You're good." Which is the Izzy Cerise strategy from Big Brother. What do you think of this move from Caroline? Do you think it's the right thing to do? Or do you think do you try to exploit it? We still haven't
Oh,
seen where the outcome is going to be of this, but what do you think of this?
oh, I mean, I think to ever play it a different way is to kind of like the aim of the game with Survivor. I feel like, especially in these situations where people are getting idols or people are like in these situations where power is being held, you just never want to be on the opposite side of it. So like a moment like this is brilliant, I think, truthfully and honestly. I think it's a brilliant play because it, rather than it being like, hey, like a call to your bluff, it's like, oh my God, you are safe. Like I
Right.
am I am your ally and
Yeah,
you
it
are
almost strokes
like,
your ego.
yes,
Yeah.
right. And that
Yeah.
the game, I feel like Survivor, that is a perfect example of like sometimes Survivor isn't about outsmarting people in like making them feel belittled. Sometimes it's about outsmarting them and making them think that you haven't already plotted their demise with the information you have found out. That's what's good about, I mean, like that's why Sari is so good, right? Like
Mhm.
she finds out the information and immediately is like, I know how this will come back to bite you later, but you'll never know until I've done it. Like
Right.
that's sort of her idea with something like that. So I thought it was well played. That's what I
Yeah.
have to say on that.
Yeah, and it is one of those things where if you just say like, "Are you sure?" Like if you question Sue, Sue's
Yeah.
gonna be like, "Oh, maybe I don't trust
Yep.
Caroline. Maybe I got to get her out." But if you just say, "Hey, listen, I get it. I know you have the idol. I'm proud of you." Like then now you have Caroline in your pocket, but really Caroline has Sue in her pocket. Now,
Right.
in terms of the edit. And I might say this later when we get to our rankings. I think Sue has probably more of a winner upside just because she has been shown to be getting a lot of quotes about her career and how underestimated she is as an older woman.
Right.
There's like two main storylines that Jeff is kind of pushing this season, which is like community and underestimation. And I think Caroline, a lot of her confessionals are about the community aspect, and a lot of Sue's are about underestimation. And we'll just have to see which one wins out. But I think both of them are in a really good spot right now. As for Gabe and Tiana, I feel like that's going to come to a head soon. But the thing is, Gabe does have Sue and Caroline in his pocket, so we'll have to see if he gets that win. But also, we'll talk about it this week. We are splitting into two groups of six again, so we'll have to
Right.
talk about that breakdown in just a sec to see where those lie. But let's go to Yellow next, because Yellow did have to boot Annika, sadly. But we see a very interesting kind of Andy in the middle play that becomes Sierra in the middle, because at first the girls, Sierra is the one kind of deciding, do I want to work with Andy and Sam? Do I want to work with Annika and Rachel? And then Andy's kind of the one who gets the ground moving on this big Annika blindside and ends up getting Sierra to side with him and Sam. Sierra has gotten a lot of hate online, like Maria did last season, for being a woman hater and getting out Annika when really it was best for her game to work with the girls. And I do see that point, but I also see, you can't help the bonds you make out there. And I think
Right.
when you are like Sierra and you are bonding with everyone, it's very tough to have to like draw the line in the sand, which makes it very difficult. And I think a problem with that is that if you go against Andy, you lose Sam. And it's a
Yeah.
question of, do you want to risk losing Sam and Andy? Because if you get rid of Andy, you lose Sam as well. Or do you get rid of Annika and hope that you can get Rachel back? And I think
Right.
Rachel's a much easier person to pull back than Sam. And I really do think going into the merge, Sierra having Sam as a shield is a better move for her than having Annika as a shield, personally, in my opinion. Now, I still think getting out Andy would have probably been a better move long
Yeah.
term because Andy is such a chaotic player. But what do you think of this dynamic? Because it's very interesting. It ended up being kind of like Andy is the odd man out, but it really ended up being this strong three of Sam, Sierra, and Andy. I mean, we've kind of gotten the least bit from Yellow, even though they did go to tribal that week. I believe Annika, when she went home, only had a few confessionals, but sad to see Annika go. But what do you think of this Yellow tribe breakdown,
Um.
and where do you think Sierra falls now? Do you think it was a good move to go after the women, or should she have sided with the women and gone after Andy?
So In terms of dynamic, I think it's interesting because yellow is the tribe that could have had just the most straightforward dynamic from the very beginning. They could have gotten rid of Andy in that first vote. Things would have been very apparent from there on out. Like it probably would have switched. It probably would have become a very like women versus men style thing because I feel like John would have had way more because since they were all kind of dogpiling on Andy, it was less of like a men versus women thing, and they could have drawn lines in the sand a lot earlier, and they always would have had the power, which I think was more so that would have been a smarter like for Sierra, it would have been a smarter strategy to go with the women if the dynamic of men versus women was already very clear. I don't necessarily agree with the like, yeah, maybe it's better for your game, but also like when you have someone like Sam who is clearly very charming, clearly very like charismatic, is going to be able to talk to people very easily. They've called him the glue a bunch of times. They call him like this sort of like, he's a magnet. When you have that kind of, he feels so confident that he outwardly said to Sierra, I'm going to use this idol on Andy. And like nothing happened from it. Nothing, like she did not walk away from him and like question him and move away. She stayed with. If you have already made that kind of commitment, it makes zero sense to get rid of Sam right now, or Sam or Andy, because Sam and Andy are working with you to ensure your spot in the game. If you turn on either one of them, there's an easy way to just say, well, like Sierra's again, let's say that like Sam or Andy is not on that 6, or Sam or Andy win immunity. Now all they have to do, when you have immunity, you have a lot more power than when you're just obviously like kind of like a sitting duck. Sam has all the power in the world if he's immune, which he absolutely could be. He's a good competitor. So literally just be like, get rid of Sierra. We should get rid of Sierra because he has nothing to lose.
And we saw that last week. He said Andy's name. He basically, when they needed another name for Rome, Saul said, if Rome plays an idol, I'm gone. And Sam's goes, well, you could just vote Andy. Sam gave up Andy like that. And I think that's going to be very telling in this next episode. We'll get to it when we get to our rankings. But another question I had, what do you think of Sam not playing the idol? Because he'd been saying over and over he wasn't going to play for Andy. And then he decides, I was going to hold on to it because if I play for Andy, Andy will know I was lying to him, that I found the idol, and I'll use it as a fake later. But do you think maybe Sam should have taken that opportunity to really solidify his trust with Andy? Because now what we're seeing in the preview, Andy hears that Sam put out his name as a decoy vote in case Rome played an idol. Now, I think he probably wishes he played that idol on Andy, because now I think Andy could be more willing to flip on Sam than if he had not. Because as we said with the Sue and Caroline thing, once you tell someone about an idol or play an idol on someone, that is a bond that is hard to break. Look at Carson and Carolyn. You cannot break that. And if Sam were to play that idol on Andy, yes, he didn't need to, but it looks better on a resume. And two, I think it would earn that trust that now I don't know if it's 100% there to where Andy could easily flip on Sam. And I think that's the biggest blunder on Sam's part. But what do you think? I know it was a loaded question.
Again, I think it's more just a double-edged sword, because here's the thing, right? Is that it plays both ways for Sam. I mean, not using it on Andy seems like it makes him more of an option for other people. The problem with like playing an idol on someone is that it kind of already makes you a duo, and where he is already being looked at as a duo with Sierra, do you really need to also be looked at as a duo with Andy? Like, is that really a good idea to do in this sort of game and like have everyone? Because, like the Tika 3 is not like a constant, like a commonality for people to have get all the way to the, get so close or almost all the way to the end. Like, that's not really what always happens. So could it have been beneficial? Yeah. Is it kind of risky because now Andy is very much like, oh, I'm gung ho on Sam. I believe that Sam's probably a better player than that he'll be able to reconvince Andy to like, hey, listen, I didn't, all he has to say is like, hey, listen, before when I lied to you about the idol, like I didn't know how good or how close we were going to be. You have to play close to your chest. I didn't want to use it on you because I knew you were fine. I knew that Rome was going home, and
Annika,
I knew that Annika was going home, and I did not want. I didn't want people to consider us. I didn't want people to consider us a duo. Like I didn't want them to think that of us. So it just all depends on how Sam keeps playing.
Yeah. It was very interesting to me. Also because like you're also you have a guaranteed safety. It's only good for one tribal. If you're not going to play it on Andy, at least play it on yourself. Because like
Right.
I think the best thing, honestly, I've been saying this from the top. I think Sierra's best move would have been to flip it on Sam, because
Yes.
then you have the women, you have Andy who's now just totally vulnerable, and you're getting out someone that everyone is going to look at you as a pair with. Because now
Right.
they're in the merge and everyone thinks they're dating. Like that is going to be tough to shake. And Sierra's going to have to cut Sam, or Sam's going to have to cut Sierra. They can't both be in this game together for much
Right.
longer. And I think we're going to see that come to a head. But I want to get to Red really quick before we get into our power ranking, because this is where we lose two people. This whole week, it seems like Keyshawn, Teeny, Genevieve, and Rome have the power, and they're just going to easily take out Saul. Even Rome kind of threatens Saul and basically says, like, either you give me your shot in the dark, or I'm going to steal your vote anyway. And like,
Right.
kind of really kind of gives him an ultimatum, kind of a threat. Jeff calls it a threat. Rome says no, it's an ultimatum. And ultimately, what the final result is that it ends up being Genevieve who turns it on Keyshawn. Genevieve, who was kind of coming out of the shadows, obviously, in our little group chat for fantasy, Austin said it, like, she's the main character now. Like, it is really cool to see Genevieve kind of emerge as this big player. She gets out Keyshawn, who is a big social threat, because Keyshawn, again, you got to be careful with decoy votes, because they're all going to go on Rome. And Keyshawn says, well, what about Genevieve as like a backup option to give Saul? And all it took was that for Genevieve to be like, I don't like that. Bye. And I can attest, you saw my game on Survivor Game On. That happened with me and one of my allies. His name is Cyrus. If you're listening, buddy, love you. But Cyrus put my name out there as a decoy to this other tribe member, Megan, and I said, I don't like that, and I got rid of Cyrus. Like, that is a real thing. When you hear that your name is the decoy vote, no matter how safe you feel, I mean, that is dangerous. You can easily be like, I'm sussed out that you're even considering that. And that's what Keyshawn was. He was so powerful, a great player, much better player than I think either of us expected him to be. Genevieve snipes him out and becomes like this main character, which I love. And then in the very next episode, basically kind of backtracks and gets Teeny and Saul back in her corner to be like, yeah, I'm still done with Rome. And then the very next episode, Rome goes. So I think Genevieve is playing much better than we all expected. I think Saul has found himself out of a rut. Teeny's just been coasting along despite Keyshawn leaving. I think Teeny's kind of ingrained themselves very well. And then you have Rome, who was in power. And then after that, Genevieve, he's basically at her mercy, and then continues to just rattle his mouth at the merge and get voted out just because he's saying too many things. And sometimes it just takes, someone talking too much for you to just be like, I don't want to play with that player. And they just watched Q on 46 before going out there. There's a good chance probably everyone was like, this guy's like Q. I don't even want to play with this guy. Let's get him out. But what do you think about these red dynamics? Because it totally 180 from where we last talked, where Asia went home. Saul seemed like he was the easy one on the outs. And now Saul's in the game. Rome and Keyshawn, who are running that tribe, are not. And I think it's cool that these three kind of under the radar underdogs have risen above. What do you think of this red dynamic?
I have nothing else to add.
Okay.
Truthfully, honestly. I mean, it's pretty clear. Look at my fantasy team. I've got the two main characters. They're chilling. They're doing
Now the question is, who are the two main characters? Because I'm looking at that. Those are the four big characters. I mean, Sue is the biggest. Sue is the biggest character on blue. Andy's the biggest character on yellow, and then red. Teeny was the biggest character, and Genevieve has now broken out. Like, you have the four main characters of the season. I love it.
What can I say? Wait, go back to that. How many points do I have? How many points? Oh, 83. God.
You're only 6 above Ingrid, though. I mean, and here's the thing. Ingrid has Gabe, who's going to be kind of this big player in this game. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. I have Caroline, who I still think has winner upside. And then Austin has Sam, who, like, I think is going to be a big threat right now. But if he can find his grounding, sure. So, like, I think we all have a chance to catch up. But, yeah, you're killing it, bro. Should we get to the rankings, though? Because I think we have to talk about this now upcoming week. Do you have anything left to say about Rome, though, specifically?
Hey, buddy. I was really rooting for you. I really wanted I wanted a Rome. I wanted to be proved wrong. I wanted to see how Rome could be built in a day. But instead, I was left with a leaning tower of peace. I don't know. I got nothing.
I don't know. No, that seemed honestly, like an Andy voting confessional.
Overall, a great character. I think probably Rome is one of the better Survivor players we've gotten in the new era, even if it's not strategically, just in terms of like overall personality. Right. I mean, like sitting on Jeff's stump, like the whole 9 yards.
Do you like that? Because a lot of fans are like outraged. They're like, that's so anti-Survivor.
Get over it. Get over it. You have one. You may never have another chance to do the things that you want to do on that island. And if he doesn't fucking care, then who cares? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I think that Rome again with a different cast. and on a second go through might be one of the best players we could end up seeing, because now he has an idea of like what not to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, like as a viewer, as a fan of the game, I was shaking my hands and like violently like shaking my head no, like, Rome, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But as like a fan of like watching, like I think it will be a bit more of a boring game with no Rome.
Yeah.
That
And
is
the thing with Rome is too, like, I know you had been like, Rome, what are you doing? But like, he played his idol correctly. He played his advantage correctly, his steal a vote. The really only misstep he made was that he just played the game too hard at a point where, like, the merge, you kind of have to sit back and be chill. And I think we've seen time after time, the merge is like a time where everyone just kind of settles on a name and then keeps it that
Yeah.
way. And this year, especially, you only had one person safe this year. It wasn't a whole half. It was only Kyle.
Right.
So that also added an element of like, if you are just, you all only have to be one of 12 people to not go home. Like, you have the odds in your favor. You really have to royally F up. And like, I think there's a world based on like the seeds planted that Tiana and Gabe go after each other here. But the thing is, Rome was just running his mouth too much. And I do think I agree with you. I think Rome could learn a lot on a second go. But I also think just based on his exit press, and like I hope to get him on this show to like just interview him and hear what his thought process was. But I struggle to believe that Rome won't always play at that 11. And I just worry that like in the new era, that's just too chaotic. And like maybe there's a world where his tribe just wins so much that he's in a power structure, because he is a loyal player. He was loyal to Genevieve and Saul to a point, and Teeny to a point, until they flipped on him. Like, I think Rome is a loyal player. And I do think, we saw that with Genevieve. My only worry now is also like Genevieve and Saul's whole stories up to this point have been kind of focused on Rome, to where I'm worried that like we're going to lose them sooner rather than later. And I really hope not, because I really liked watching Saul and Genevieve, and I can't wait to watch them play without Rome. And I think this is kind of like a turning of a new chapter. This is kind of the second act of the season. If there's a 3-act structure, and that makes sense, it's the merge, but it really feels like act 1 was Rome. And now we're moving on to something else, which is going to be really fun. But yeah, we're getting a split tribal this week. The tribe splits, I have them on my phone, so I can't like show you a graphic, but the first group, Zach, is all 5 blues and Rachel. So it's Rachel and all 5 blues. But we'll talk about that. Does that mean a death sentence to Rachel? We'll find out. And then the other one is the other 3 reds and the other 3 yellows. So all the 3 yellows that aren't Rachel. So the trio of Sam, Sierra, and Andy, and the trio of Saul, Genevieve, and Teeny. I think this is the most interesting split we've seen in the new era. I am very worried for Rachel, and I don't know what the hell is going to happen on red and yellow, but I'm very intrigued. So, Zach, with that, I put you in the hot seat. Who's the safest one going into the split tribal?
I mean, it's Sue.
Okay.
It has to be Sue, because even if she feels like she's in any sort of danger, she's got an idol. She's fine. She should play it. She should play it. She should. If she does it, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, that's sort of right. Like, if she wins immunity, then it's great. If she doesn't and she doesn't, I would play it. I would play it no matter how I felt. Because if you're looking at the 5, it should be easy, right? Like, it should be easy. That doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything. So I've got Sue at the top.
That's fair. I have Sue a little lower, but she's in my top 3, I'll say. The only reason I have my number 1 is Teeny, because like on that split, it's 3 red, 3 yellow.
On number 2, you're right.
But here's the thing. If anyone from red is going to get targeted, yellow is going to try to pull over Teeny to go after Genevieve and Saul. I truly believe. I think they could pull over Genevieve or pull over Saul or pull over Teeny, but they're never going to target Teeny, I don't think. I think they're always going to look at Teeny as someone they want to work with, especially with this whole like amulet thing, which we haven't talked about. But the amulet, Andy, Caroline, and Teeny find the amulet. They all just burn it on the first tribal. They use it on Teeny because Teeny's the one who lost the vote. So it's kind of a respect, like, here you go. I love that. And I loved Rome kind of sitting in the stool and saying, like, Jeff, here's why the amulet is a bad idea. Even though I think it's an interesting idea, but I do agree. It's bad for the players because it puts a target on their back. But after that, I think Teeny and Andy could be closer. I think Teeny is the person that everyone is always going to gravitate to most over Genevieve and Saul.
Man.
Yeah.
She's the best.
Yeah, so I really think no matter how that shakes up, whether it is a yellow flipping on yellow or a red flipping on red, Teeny will either be the one flipping on her own tribe mates, Genevieve and Saul, or Teeny's going to be the one getting Andy to flip on the yellows. I think that's what it is. And then similarly at number 2, I have Caroline on blue, just because The only thing with Sue is that Sue has kind of said she wants to go after Kyle and said she wants to go after Tiana. So like if Sue does get a little too vocal, I worry Sue could get votes. But you said it best. She has an idol, so I have Sue at 3. But Caroline's the one who's like hiding behind that idol. I think Caroline's gonna just kind of hide behind Sue, which could be dangerous in the end if they're both in the end together, but could be a really good shield for now, especially in the short term.
I just realized we have the same we have the same top 3 because
Okay, so Caroline's your 3.
is my 3rd. And again, all 3 of these are like interchangeable, I think. Because again, I think these are the 3, like, for me, big characters of this season long term, I think. Like you were saying before, like, I absolutely think that Andy and Genevieve are characters long term who we're going to see. But in terms of like overall relevance, I mean, like, Genevieve can only work for so long before she's kind of found out. Spoiler alert, she's not far down on my list. Like, she's not towards the bottom. I still think there's a lot of Genevieve left. But what I will say is, like, kind of in the same realm as Andy, is that eventually I think they will just realize that, like, oh, damn, if we leave them in for too long, we are kind of screwed. Whereas what I would love to see is a Sue, Teenie, and Caroline trio form. That would be
absolutely. Yeah. I have Sue at 3. Who's your number 4 though? So we agree who the safest on each side is. Teeny's the safest on that split. Caroline and Sue are running the side on the other side. Who do you have at 4?
At 4, I have Andy, and it's really because the way where Andy sits right now is that he can be kind of like what you were just saying, Dylan. He can be a swing for either side. Like, he can probably stick with the yellows, he can go over with the reds and say, because he really he doesn't create majority, but what he does do is he creates either a majority on one side if he goes with the reds.
Yankees won, so this beard's staying. 11 to 4, baby. We're back. Anyway, continue.
If he creates, he can either create a majority with the red and then kind of figure out what to do later in a regular merge, or he can create a tie and kind of risk it for the biscuit. But I think that, again, like, I think there's just more. They spent so much time with Andy early on and continue to spend a lot of time with him that I don't feel like we're going to see him go anywhere anytime soon. I think, if anything, we'll see him kind of turn and have this sort of redemption arc. So I put him up at 4 just because, again, do I think like he could go home? Yes, but I think that they're not done with his story arc.
Yeah. At number 4, I have Gabe. I think, Gabe is getting a lot of heat from Tiana, but the truth is, I don't see Sue and Caroline flipping on Gabe right now. And I think, it's kind of the same thing position TK, where they kind of strong arm Tiana because they said the 3 of us are voting TK. So either you're going to force a tie or you're flipping with us. And I think that's going to happen again where, it could be easy where all 5 of them just vote out Rachel. I think there's a very good chance that could happen. I also could see a world where they take the shot at one of their own. And if they do, those 3 are running the game. So I do think Gabe is in 4. I see a world where somehow Tiana is able to sway Caroline and Sue to get out Gabe, but I don't think it would happen. I really think that's slim. There is a slight chance, but I don't think it's happening. So I have Gabe at 4. I just think he's going to be our big final boss of the season. He's not getting the winner's edit, but he's getting an edit of someone who's clearly going to be a big deal later on because he also had a small pre-merge or a small merge. I mean, so usually if you have a quieter merge, you're kind of okay for the end game. The people who have the loudest merges are the targets of the merge, the soon to be targets, and like the winner or final 3. So I think Gabe's okay. He got a bit of a quieter edit. That means he could probably go a little longer in this game. But I am a little worried just because his name is out there. But I think he's okay. And then at 5, I do have Andy for the same reasons you said. I think if they flip on a yellow, Andy's going to be the one doing that. I think Andy actually holds all the power on that tribe. The only thing with Andy is that he could spiral because he's in power, and then all 5 of them just vote out Andy. There is a world of that, but I do think I think we're meant to be redeeming Andy with the edit. I really do see a path.
I think that we have a lot of Andy left, so I would be shocked to see him go anywhere.
Yeah. Who's your number 5?
5 is Genevieve. Again, I sort of alluded to it already. I think there's a lot of Genevieve left. Like, she's this huge main character all of a sudden out of nowhere. I feel like it would be ridiculous to make her such a big main character and then kind of throw her to the side.
Yeah.
And have her leave so much earlier. So I do think we have more Genevieve kind of down the pike for us.
Yeah, I have Genevieve at 6. I think if they're going to get rid of a red, it's going to be Saul just because also you got to think when your name is out there, even
Yeah.
as a backup vote, your name's out there now. So like I think they could easily be like, well, Saul, like he was a
Yeah.
backup plan last week with Rome. Let's vote him out now. The only thing that worries me about Genevieve is like I feel like a lot of the stuff they're showing of her is very circumstantial. Like
Mhm.
she's the one who makes the Keyshawn vote happen, so they had to show her. She's the one who
Right.
found the advantage at the buoy, so they had to show her. My only worry is that she's getting the edit she's getting because of the things she's doing,
Right.
not because she's a winner and they want to give her a positive light. But that being said, we've seen winners who just dominate the game, and Genevieve right now is dominating the game. So I do have her at 6. I hope she goes far. She's who I'm. If I had to root for anyone, if I had to list them out, Genevieve and Teeny are my 1 and 2. They are
Yes.
the 2 people I want to win the game. So
It,
for my own hope prediction, I'm putting Genevieve at 6.
yeah. If I had been kind of going off of that, they would have been my 1 and 2, and I would have hoped that that's what was gonna happen. But like again, Teeny, I think, is just, knock on wood, far more safe than her. And I think, again, you're right. If they turn on anyone, they turn on Saul, but it could end up in a case where, like, someone says the right thing and then all of a sudden Genevieve is the option. So, like,
Yeah.
could be anything.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what's so fun about this particular split because, is Rachel that obvious of a boot on the other side? Is it as obvious as 3 versus 3 on this side? Like, I think there's going to be a lot more nuance that we just don't know yet because we haven't seen these guys play together yet. We don't really know. All we know is that Andy is getting information from Saul because I don't know if you saw the clip that they showed. It's like a little preview 1-minute clip where Saul basically tells Andy, he tells him he voted for him, and Andy's like, "Why would you vote for me?" He goes, "Sam told me to," and that's where it cuts the clip. And I'm like, I just have a feeling this episode is leading to Andy betraying Sam and Sierra. I'm just not sure which one, but they've been getting such good edits that I'm not sure if that's gonna happen. So I'm a little worried for Genevieve and Saul. This is also
Which
kind of
leads me
I was just about to
to.
say though, real quick, that this is kind of like
Oh,
the
sorry.
time of the season though, where like the under edited players do go out. So I'm hoping this is a break of convention because Rome went out and he's very much not an
Yeah.
under edited player. So I'm hoping this is just a different season and I'm not reading too
I,
far into the edit. But who's your number 6? Sorry.
I was going to say, which leads me to my number 6 being Sierra. Truly, because again, a lot of these for me, and again, they're not great reasonings. Normally, my reasonings are a lot better. My brain's just mush, but like, I'll give you my 6 and I will give you my 7, which I know will be a big difference for the two of us. Probably is Sierra is my 6 and Sam is my 7, and that really is just because, like you said, like they're still big players, and I feel like to lose them. That edit was so clearly like Sam's on the way out, and I just don't think that that's true. Like I think that if you notice, right, like that whole tribe is out on my rankings now, which
Which
I,
means you think Red is turning on Saul because he's the only one on that side you haven't put yet.
yeah, I think honestly, Sam and Saul are the two who are probably the most at risk on those tribes for me, and they sit at 7 and 8. I didn't want to put them so far down, mainly just because I want to challenge.
Okay.
Am I going to lose out on points? Probably. Is my
So
brain
Saul's your
right?
8. Saul's your
Yes.
8. Okay.
Yeah, but my hope is that I nail my 12 and end up with 20 points.
Okay.
That's sort of what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
And I'll make it up later.
Well, and to add to that though, like I do think knowing that Blue could go or the other side, I keep saying Blue, it's Blue and Rachel, could be an easy Rachel boot, or could be Tiana, or could be Gabe, or could be Kyle. The fact that there are like 4 valid options, putting all 4 at the bottom is not bad because if you get one of those correct, you're getting a lot of points, and then you're
Right.
still getting a lot of points for Sam or Saul. So I see your strategy. I get it. At 6 is where I have Genevieve though, and Carly does say Genevieve winning would be so cool. It would be a really unconventional edit. And while we're on Sierra, Carly said this earlier. I have to agree. Sierra still shows female friendships, which is important, whereas Maria didn't really focus on the female friendships, which is I think a good differentiator. Whereas like Sierra was very clearly torn up about having to vote out Annika, whereas
Right.
Maria, it wasn't as remorseful. But yeah, either way, neither of them deserve hate out there, just saying. And I don't think Carly's saying that, but I'm just saying for anyone listening
Right.
out there who's like, yeah, F Sierra for that. It's also been 2 weeks at this point. Annika's at peace with it. I think Sierra can now ride free.
Right.
So you're at 8 already. So I'm going to rattle off my 7 and 8. Kyle's my 7. I just think there's a good chance he wins immunity, and even if he doesn't, like I know he's going to be targeted soon, but I just have a feeling it won't be this soon. I feel like at this point, Tiana and Gabe have that beef. Rachel's the odd one out. I just think Kyle is going to squeak by just based on a lucky draw. I think if Kyle is the one blue on another tribe, he could probably go home. But I think because he has other blues on his side, because obviously we saw last week he had that big immunity win, I think Kyle's going to squeak by. But I could also see Kyle being someone who just like misses the merge randomly or misses the jury, because whoever goes home first is missing the jury, which I think is a dumb twist. But I could see a world where Kyle's that guy, so I put him kind of smack dab in the middle. Same as Genevieve. I could see a world where we snipe out Genevieve or Kyle at this point, but I really don't want it to happen because I also really like Kyle. And then at 8, I'm going to do the impossible. I'm putting Rachel at 8. I just don't see a world where it's that easy. I don't see a world where it's that easy, Zach.
Crazy.
I mean, it could be that easy. We're all 5, but I feel like Gabe wants to play a game. He does not want to say, okay, let's just take out Rachel. Because also you got to think about it. I think with red at 3 players, yellow at 4, you need to take out one of your own, because at some point they're going to start coming after you if you're 5.
Do you know?
Yes, because here's the thing: if you vote out Rachel and it's 5 people against like 5 other people, those 5 are going to go after people like Gabe and Kyle because they're strong guys in a blue majority. They're going to say, you know what? All 5 of those blues are still there. Let's get rid of one of them. And that's not what Gabe wants. That's not what Sue wants. That's not what Caroline wants. And I think getting rid of one of their own is going to make them as a tribe less threatening. So that's my thinking. So I have Rachel at 8. I also don't want her to go. I like an underdog. I love Rachel. So I mean, you love Rachel, but you love a different Rachel. But
I also love this Rachel. I think Rachel is great.
Okay. Who's your number 9?
At 9, I have Gabe. I have pretty much all of those blues down at the bottom.
Yeah.
But it's more just collateral. And also because unlike Sue and Caroline, I can see a path of an exit path for all of them. Like with, for example, with Gabe not playing things correctly at a vote like this, where like you don't need as many votes in order to accomplish getting someone out. I mean, all Gabe has to do is speak out of turn about something and piss the wrong person off, and like that's kind of it, you know. Like he just has to say the wrong thing, suggest the wrong name to Tiana, like. You know, because that's sort of what we're seeing, right? Like we're seeing this kind of like, I want to make a big move, I want to do this thing. So like if he does go to Tiana and he's really trying to get her out, and he ends up like throwing out Sue or Caroline's name as an option, like kind of in the Andy way, right? Where like if they know that they're collateral when like Kyle is right there, unless Kyle is the one who's like immune, it doesn't take much to just be like, all right, well, get rid of him. So, and I think that like, I agree with you. I think Gabe has a lot of potential and a lot of like boss potential. I don't think he has winner potential. I don't know if he's out yet, but every episode I grow a little bit more weary of like Gabe's end game chances. And end game not even meaning like final 3. I'm talking like final 6, final 7.
Like he's a mid-merge boot, kind of like Tiffany, Hunter, or
so
Venus.
He's not at the bottom because I still think that he's got more game left, but even still, like I think that there's a world where he goes if the wrong thing happens.
Yeah. And we're being shown a lot that like Gabe and Sue are tight, but we're also seeing Sue and Caroline being tight. And I think honestly the edit is showing us more of Sue and Caroline than they are Sue and Gabe. So it's a lot about Gabe saying he wants an older woman on his side, where Sue is saying, I want Caroline on my side. And I think that's the differentiator there, where I do see a world where later down the line, Sue chooses Caroline over Gabe. I think that's what it's building to, but I don't know what's happening this week. At 10 or at 9, sorry, is where I have Saul. Because I do fully believe that Andy is going to flip on the yellows, and we'll get to them in a sec, but I think Saul is going to be okay. But the problem is, if Saul is the one to tell Andy, hey, Sam said your name, and Andy goes back to Sam and is like, it plays the MJ Chelsea game of like, hey, guess what Saul was saying? Saul could be out. So I think Saul's on thin ice. I don't think he's safe. You have him as the person going home in that group. I think it could happen, but I'm just banking on the story element of don't underestimate Andy, because guess what? You underestimated Andy. You didn't want to tell him about the idol. You didn't play the idol on him. You didn't get him out instead of John. You threw out his name again in the rowboat, and now it's coming back to haunt you. So at 9, I have Saul, and I might as well rattle off the rest of my list because it'll kind of give away who I have at the bottom. But I have Sierra at 10 and Sam at 11. I do think this is going to be a huge boot. As we saw with Rome, it's okay for someone with a lot of confessionals to go out before the jury. Yep. And I just think I do have him making the jury, though. I have him at 11. 11 makes the jury here. So I do think Sam makes the jury, but becomes the first jury member. I think it's a huge blindside and makes it epic because I do think this whole season so far with them has been building to Sam underestimating Andy and Sam and Sierra clearly being shown as a tight duo that everyone wants to break up. And I think this could be the chance for those storylines to culminate and for Andy to flip on Sam and Sierra. And I do think he would flip on Sam, even though I think Sierra makes more sense because he's not as tight with Sierra. I think the fact that Sam threw his name out there, I think he'll be have a more vendetta against Sam than he will Sierra. But I could see it being interchangeable. So I have Sierra at 10, Sam at 11, which means Tiana is my 12. I think they're just setting this up to be a battle also. And I think just based on the edit, I don't think Tiana's longed very far in this game. So I think Gabe is going to win out that battle. Sue, Caroline, and Gabe pull over Rachel, vote out Tiana, and Kyle's on the outs once again. That's what I'm predicting. Clip it right here for the TikTok in case I'm right. Andy's going to flip on his yellows, get out Sam for putting out his name out there. It's going to be a huge blindside. And on the other side, I think Gabe is going to rally Caroline Sue, pick up Rachel as that extra vote, and get out his nemesis, Tiana. That's my prediction. What is your 10, 11, 12?
Kyle at 10, Tiana at 11, Rachel at 12. I am going to take the low-hanging fruit, unfortunately. I mean, and I don't have much about Kyle and Rachel. I sort of see kind of like a similar in mind to like what you are thinking about. I think from a certain standpoint, I agree going in with such a large majority of a tribe is really difficult. However, my biggest thing is that like if you have the opportunity to kind of keep each other safe, why not? Like, you know what I mean? Like
it's an easy out. It's a very easy vote. And honestly, I think the new era, everyone just wants to play so hard that they never take the easy road, but it would be really refreshing for them to just be like, and I hate this at Rachel's expense, but just to be like,
right,
5-1. You know,
right. And that's my big thing is that like, and maybe it's just because coming from an org where that literally is just what happened. Like that's how our tribe played. And eventually at a certain point, you get the itch to want to turn on people, but the itch to turn on people is what usually ruins someone's game. And I think that that's going to be the big thing, right? Is that like this week to me will make or break Gabe's game because Gabe, like he wants to play. You don't have to play yet though. You can play next week. Like you can wait and come into like you can flip and try and grab someone on your side and flip and then try and really play like a hard game. But at this point in time, like if you don't have to turn on someone, don't turn on anyone. You have the, you know, I would hate it for Rachel because that's a swap screw. Like that absolutely blows. But like what do? You know what I mean? Like how do you not navigate around it? So,
and I could very well see her winning immunity too.
Yeah,
like and here's the thing too, like there's only one idol. It was Sue's. No one's found this merge idol yet. So like there's also potential, like what if Saul finds the idol? You know, what does that do? What if what if Tiana finds the idol? Like what does that do? And I think that would make it so much more exciting than if like Gabe finds another idol, or if Sue finds another idol, or Teeny finds an idol. Like Teeny's fine. Like I really want to see one of these underdogs that we have low in our rankings, like Saul, like Tiana, like Kyle, like Rachel, find an idol and like do something crazy with it, because I think that would lead to more fun gameplay, because we didn't see any of that last season because everyone went home with it in their pockets. And Sue is probably in it for the long haul. Like I don't see her going home with an idol in her pocket at all. I actually see her making a big boss move with that idol. So this has been really fun talking about it, though. I'm very excited going into this episode. I think, you know, we're all on the same page. This has been a great season so far. It hasn't been a top season, but not a bottom season at all. I don't think there's been a dud episode. I think the Genevieve breakout was really fun. All the downfall of Rome was really fun. I mean, the fact that they let Rome stay previously on Survivor, that was epic. And I should have known from the very beginning that he was gonna go home, because this whole episode was a send-off. It was him doing the previously on. The entire episode was just showing how wrong he was in all his reads. And at the end, we saw every vote for him. Like it literally was as obvious as it could be. But for a character like Rome, it felt right. So yeah. So there you go. Any last thoughts, Zach, before we head into this official merge episode?
I'm tired.
I know you are. I'm so sorry. I kept you up.
Listen, great season so far. 2 back-to-back stellar seasons of CBS reality shows. I mean, you can't really be upset about it, right? A great Big Brother 26 really being an amazing season. And Survivor 47 really churning out like a lot of great gameplay.
Yeah. I think
and
we can go even
characters.
I was gonna say, I think we can go even further back. We can go to 46 and reindeer games.
For
like
two.
I think
For
the stretch
two.
of like reindeer games to 46 to 26 to 47, like that's a good 4-season stretch. And then I guess the challenge might be in there somewhere. Amazing Race, I haven't watched in a while, so very exciting though. Zach, who has the recipe for reality this week for you?
Chelsea.
Yeah,
good job, girl. You earned it.
You earned it. Yeah, Chelsea earns it. There
And
she
you know
is.
what? You, Rome, you earn it. You had a great episode.
You had a
crushed
great
it.
downfall episode, Rome.
Uh,
Rome gets our like mini recipe for reality, our
Yeah.
small bite. But Chelsea, there she is,
Superhero.
winner of BB26, getting that recipe for reality. Big win. Where can they find you, Zach?
Here, that place down there. I don't
Cool.
go on there as much anymore because it's
Especially these weeks. Ooh.
it's doom scrolly. But you can find me there. You can find me pretty much on the same name on TikTok. I haven't been posting a lot lately. You can find me in a show in about a month. That's really it.
There you
Dylan,
go.
where can they find you?
You can find me here as well. Dylan Movie Network, Dylan_Randazzo on Twitter. Zach and I are gonna do our chopped thing. Hopefully at the beginning of next year. We're gonna lock that down once Zach's out of a show and I'm out of mine because I'm starting one soon too, which sucks. Not that the show sucks. It's awesome, but it also just takes up so much free time. But that's why we love doing this, and we are gonna try to find a time. Now that I'm back from Minnesota and Zach's back from wedding traveling, we're gonna like coordinate every week. We'll be like, all right, what night are we recording? We're gonna start tomorrow. Like episode's over. What night are we recording? We're gonna make sure we do this for you guys because we love it. And who knows? Maybe we'll have some guests down the line. Maybe we'll get Austin and Ingrid back on because they are married now. Congratulations. We might get Charlie on. We might get Matt on. We might get other people. Maybe Rome himself will grace our podcast someday. We can only hope. I'm going to reach out to him and see if he'd be down to do it, even if it's like 15 minutes of chatting, which for him would be like 2 sentences. But I'm very excited for the future of this podcast. I don't have any clips since Rubina got fourth. We both lost our winner pick. But Zach, our winner picks for this, mine's gone, but I believe yours is still in, correct?
Don't say it too loud.
All right, sorry. I will not say Teeny's name. Oops, I said it.
Damn it.
But also, I think it was going to be Caroline, and then I talked you out of it, and I shouldn't have talked you out of it because she is also a great pick. But either way, our winner picks are looking good. Your winner picks are looking good. Mine's not. Mine's out. Mine was second boot. But anyway, thank you for watching. I'm tired as well. Yankees, go Yanks. Hopefully next time they will have won the World Series and my beard will be shaven. If they lose the World Series, my beard will still be shaven. But this is probably the last scruffy face recipe for reality episode you're seeing with me. Otherwise, I'll look like beautiful baby face over here. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching and good night.